Yeah. This is Lady Mogul Talk, talking about black excellence. Ladies building legacies, fostering communities. There'll be topics to grow with dynamic sheroes. Time to secure the bag, elevate your goals, yeah. If you gotta grind, go ahead and take some time. Free your mind, leave your worries behind. Expand your possibilities while learning new strategies. Every time with Avery, knowledge will be guaranteed on Lady Mogul Talk.
Hello and welcome back to another segment of Lady Mogul Talk. And I am excited to welcome today's guest. And once I read her bio, you will understand why. So today we have Sharon Leid, who has over 20 years of experience in public, community, and media relations. Sharon attended John Jay College of Criminal Justice for her bachelor's in criminal justice and then returned to get her master's in public administration. Public administration majors unite. Sharon started her career in the city of New York, Kings County District Attorney's Office, and she became a community specialist and worked her way up the ladder to become the youngest African American non legal woman to hold the Community Relations Bureau's executive director position to this day. Once departing the DA's office, she decided to start her company, NetStrucPR LLC, in 2015. When starting her business, her first client, Brookdale Hospital Medical Center, decided to hire her as their community relations director, and she was then promoted to the executive director for external public and governmental affairs for the One Brooklyn Health System. Sharon's focus is to help entrepreneurs learn how to tell their stories, build credibility, and show their expertise and expand brand exposure through media, networking, speaking, and more. She is also the founder of Ladies of Third Thursday, a monthly business networking organization that provides professional and personal development for her clients. I'm excited to bring Sharon to the stage and dig more into what I didn't cover into her bio because that was amazing enough, but there is so much more in store. So let's welcome Sharon to the stage. Hello.
Hi, Avery. Thank you so much for the great introduction. I didn't realize my bio was like that. So
Oh,
thank you for letting me rehear it.
yes. I mean, it's an amazing bio. We had to cover, I mean, I wish I could have covered everything, but I had to cover as much as I could.
No. This is fine. I love to talk about. I love to talk about how I can help people and just my journey.
Yes, and I have noticed that even with each position, it's put you in a place to give back or help the community. So let's start there. What motivated you to want to serve your community and also give back to eventually to women entrepreneurs?
So it actually started when I was in undergrad, and when I went to John Jay, I initially was going into law. So I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to go and do prosecution. I had the big, that was the aspiration of what I wanted to do. And when I was in John Jay, I started working in the student body organizations, and and they just kept asking me like, "Hey, Sharon, what can we do to make this better?" And not even knowing that that was what I was actually laying out for my journey going forward, was that I was actually becoming that connector. And realizing that my mom actually worked in the DA's office, so because it's a criminal justice university college, I was able to tap into that network to get judges, to get assistant DAs, just get a whole launch of people to just come and just pour into the student body. So I was like, you know what, this is great. And again, going through my journey and going through everything, it just became part of my DNA
Mhm.
that I wanted to give back. I wanted to let, what I learned, I wanted to let more people know about it because it made no sense for me to hold on to it.
That's wonderful, and I don't know if the audience picked up on it, but it's perfect that we started this way because I had a question about pivoting. Why did you decide to pivot, or what gave you the confidence to pivot? Because a lot of people know that, okay, yes, this is great, but I need to be somewhere else. What made you decide, okay, this is the moment that yes, I'm going to go ahead and pivot?
So, um, I ended up getting an internship in the DA's office, and I saw that law was really not my forte. And not meaning that, I didn't want to be an attorney. It was just I felt that there was more to it than me just being an attorney. And I didn't know what that was until when I got into the DA's office and I was an intern. And the beauty part about me doing that was I worked through every single department or bureau in that office. So I was kind of like well rounded as a, quote unquote intern floater. So I was like in the clerk's office, I was in the bureaus, I was, in the courts, I was all over and just seeing different things and just seeing how, the office was helping people. And so when I graduated from John Jay with my bachelor's, I actually got a job there as a paralegal. And one of the attorneys came to me and said, "You know what? I think you would be a great asset to my department. It's community relations." And I was like, "What is that?" And he explained it to me. He said, "It's pretty much what you did in John Jay," because he was one of them that came to the college to speak to the student body. He said, "It's pretty much what you're doing. You're bridging the gap between community and the office and letting them know about the programs and initiatives of what we're doing." And again, I still was like, I don't know what that is, but okay, it sounds great. I'm looking at it. I'm 21 years old. I'm looking at it like, okay, yeah, more money. Sure, no problem. And, when he explained it to me and I started going out and just started giving back to the community, I was like, okay, I like this. And not to negate again, becoming an attorney, but this is what gave me passion. This is what gave me excitement. And that's when I, jumped into that and became the director for community relations in the office. And still to this day, I still do it because I incorporate that with my clients in
Mhm.
community engagement.
That's wonderful. So you could have easily stayed in your comfort zone, but you decided to take a leap of faith and say, okay, let's try something new. So I think that really is something that we should take away. The biggest takeaway right now so far is that we can't always stay in our comfort zone. You never know what other things are out there. And you said, I heard you say the word passion. Not saying that being an attorney wasn't your passion, but you seem that it seems that this community relations was more of your purpose in the longer run, even though your experiences from attorney led to that. So don't be afraid to take those experiences and apply it to something new. So that's what I took away from this conversation so far. Now, with your company, let's transition to that and tell us more about your company. And one of the things that stood out to me was you help people become newsworthy. So as you talk about your company, tell us what makes someone newsworthy.
So when I started NetStrucPR, it was more of I didn't know, how to put what I learned for the 18 years working in the DA's office, put that into motion. So long story short, the DA's office, for those of you who don't know, at least in New York, it's a elected position. And in 2013, I got laid off because, the current DA that I was working for lost the election. And so they swept out everybody, all senior leadership, swept everybody out. And I was one of them. And I know a lot of people have felt this way that, because you were this person, anytime you walked into the room, they knew, oh, yeah, the DA's office is in there. Oh, yeah, Sharon Leid is there. She could really help us out. You felt that I would have gotten a job immediately because of the background of what I had. And that wasn't the case. I got you know what? I love what you do. You're a great person. I don't think I can afford you. And that was the messages that I was getting. So I had to really figure out what I needed to do, and it was me going into the work that I already learned how to do with the experience, which was community engagement and PR, and just doing the background and the studies on it. So I started NetStruck PR, and I realized my network was filled of law enforcement. Law enforcement are not looking for a publicist. Law enforcement is not looking to expand their brand because it's already there. People are coming to law enforcement. So I had to figure out how to get a new network. So I started Ladies of Third Thursday, and as I was going along and I was getting clients, I realized that from me working from the DA's office, media was coming to us. Media was coming. People were coming to me. Oh, I want you to do this. They weren't doing that for the small entrepreneurs. They weren't doing that for the small businesses. And that's when I realized that this is an opportunity for me to show and work with entrepreneurs and small businesses based off of the craft that I learned, that you too can be newsworthy, but it's done a specific way. It's going to take a little bit more work, but there's angles and there's storylines. So that's what I work with clients on in terms of telling their story in a newsworthy way, because you got to think like, what is this news platform thinking about in terms of that is going to benefit their business, to benefit their audience? And it's all about being newsworthy. It's all about telling a story. It's all about being relatable. It's all about being an awareness, doing something different that people would be interested in. So these are the things that I work with clients on. These are the things that I do my free master classes on. These are the things that I talk to entrepreneurs about in terms of, you have to stand out. You got to bring your uniqueness to the table, because if there are 50 publicists in the room, what makes me different from the other 49? And that's what we show, that's how I talk to, clients about, and just talk to people in general, that you have to pull your uniqueness out. You got to tell your story. Everybody has a different story. No one has the same story. So it's all about how you tell your story. That's what I do with my clients and with others.
And that's wonderful, because it really does start with the story so people can resonate with you and you can share your message with the world and they understand, again, as you said, your uniqueness, your value proposition, and the what you offer for them to transform their lives. So I'm glad that you shared that, because I do try to share this with my audience, but it's always helpful for others to share their expertise on this subject. Now, you mentioned a lot about how to become newsworthy. And so, continuing on that vein, what is maybe the most common challenge that you see maybe small businesses or solopreneurs make when it comes to becoming newsworthy, or maybe they lack something as they share their story?
So the common thing, and it's not something wrong. It's just, we're in business for ourselves, and if you're not your own cheerleader, then something is wrong. However, the number one challenge that I find is that, and I tell clients, it's not about you. So when you want to talk about your business, you have to think about it outside of what you're thinking. So again, as I mentioned, your storyline, it has to be relatable. Who else do you think is going to benefit from what your services are going to do? So you can't say to yourself, you know what? I know that the community needs me to be out and talk about, a particular issue, and I want to say healthcare, and say, everybody has issues with diabetes. But that's not the case of who you're pitching to. Their audience may have some issues with, cardiology. They may have, obesity. It may be something else. So you have to do your research and not say to yourself, it's all about, and say to yourself, it's not about me. It's about, who am I talking to? Who am I looking to help? And now I come with the storyline, and I come with the assistance and the awareness that would help that individual. So that's the biggest challenge that I have to, work with clients, to let them know that I know your business is great. I know you want to talk about this particular topic or service, but who we're pitching to, that's not the audience. So you got to get outside of yourself and think and put yourself in the audience there.
And you bring up a very good point. This is why it's important to have those foundational branding fundamental principles, such as honing in on your target market, so that way you can narrow down your message. And it's not to say that you want to attract people outside of that target market, but as I say, confused audiences, they don't sell. Mixed
No,
messages,
they
it
don't.
doesn't sell.
They
So you
don't
really
buy. No.
need to narrow down, who are
Mhm.
you selling to? What are their pain points? And even go beyond that. What are they looking for from you? Their preferences, their behaviors, what they want out of life. So going deep into that is really important. I'm very glad that you touched on that. Now, one thing I want to highlight that we didn't talk about in your bio is that you have been appointed as an adjunct professor at John Jay College. First of all, congratulations.
Yes.
That. So, is this still in the community media relations field? And then tell us, what was it like going through that process? I know it's an exciting opportunity.
So, I've been asked to participate with other colleges and other universities, and I have. Um, but the crazy part about it is that, when you think about your own school that poured into you, that you got 2 degrees from, you say to yourself, how can I actually be a part of this fabric? How can I actually give back? And what I did was during COVID, I got more involved with the Alumni Association. So, again, I'm the one thing nobody wants to do is you don't want to ask me to teach criminal justice like that. You don't want that. But it's so funny because when I was in undergrad and in grad, John Jay was strict criminal justice. It was law enforcement. Like you didn't think anything outside of the box. And it has evolved. So now they have parts, they have degrees and they have programs where students that are looking to go into entrepreneurship. And then there's so many students that graduated from John Jay that went into entrepreneurship. So the Alumni Association felt that it was great for me to come on and just get more involved and talk to student bodies and let them know how did my degree help me to evolve into becoming into my own business. And did that all through COVID 2020, 2021, 2022. And early of 2022, I said to them, I was like, hey, listen, I like to take this a step further. Like, I would just, just like to talk about an entrepreneurial program or, and I literally was just throwing it out there. And my alumni association director called me up and said, Sharon, I think I have an opportunity for you that they are looking for. And it's in the African Studies Department, Africana Studies Department, Solace Entrepreneurship. And I'll be honest, I was like, I didn't even know that we had that. Like, I didn't know John Jay had that. And the chair called me. We had a great conversation. It was all but 10 minutes. And she literally was like, I want to offer you an adjunct position to talk about entrepreneurship to our students. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, and you can develop your program however you want. And, I just want them to get the foundations of what it really is to start your own business. And I said, really? And right off the back, this happened in September of 2022. I got all my credentials and everything in November of 2022 and spring of 2023. I started my first 2 classes as an adjunct professor teaching students how to become an entrepreneur. So that was something I never expected to be was an adjunct professor. And that like, God has literally just put things in my path and just says, you know what? I'm putting this in your path. You need to take it. You need to jump on it and you need to run with me on it. And that's what I did.
Mhm. And it's funny that you said jump on it because that's literally what came into my mind. Well, number one, let me backtrack. You approached them and created an opportunity for something to happen. You didn't know exactly how it was going to go, but you weren't afraid to say, okay, I would like to contribute what I have to offer in this way. You didn't wait for them to approach you. You took the leap and you went ahead and said, okay, I think this is something we need. And because of your boldness, they came back and said, this is what we have for you. We would love for you to be our adjunct professor. And so one thing it shows the importance of consistency, the importance of being bold, and then being ready, preparing yourself to be ready for the opportunity because you never know when someone's going to say, yes, we would like to have you be a part of this. So as they say, stay ready so you never have to get ready.
Absolutely. I tell my clients that all the time. I was like, we have to stay ready. We got to keep putting in and pouring into ourselves so we are ready when that press calls.
Definitely. And that brings me to my next question. So, what would you tell your beginner entrepreneurial self or someone who's like, okay, I see all the great thing that Sharon does. I want to be in a position similar to hers one day. What would you give to that person? What advice would you give that to that person?
So I definitely would say to my younger self and to younger entrepreneurs, which I do anyway, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs anyway, is I tell them, get a mentor, get somebody who you see as you want to move and stay close to them. Stay close to them, talk to them, find out about, what was their journey about. Because what I found in that is, and again, My mentors are my parents. My dad was an entrepreneur. My mom isn't an entrepreneur, but again, my mom, moved up the ladder also and was very successful, professional woman, but very spiritual. So I had those type of, upbringings. My dad, like I said, he was an entrepreneur, but he was an entrepreneur in a different mind frame, in a different, type of field, industry. What I want you to do is find a mentor that is in the industry to what you are. And also find a mentor that has just been successful and just can pour into you. And I have a lot of mentors. So the first thing I would say is do network and find a mentor. And that's going to take a little time because some people, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So you have to find that authenticity. So it is a lot of soul searching. It is a lot of, networking, but you will eventually find somebody that when you hear them speak, you'll say, I need to meet that person. I want to hear what that person has to say. I want that person to, give me some insight in how I can grow, not only personally, but on a professional level as well. So it's always good to have a mentor. It's always good to, do your soul searching, regroup anytime. I mean, some look at me, like, I started out in working for an executive in the DA's office doing PR. But my first initial business, it was not PR. Like from that 2014 to June of 2015, when I actually launched my business, I was actually marketing my husband's IT business, which I hated. But I did it. I worked it. I got the clients, but I hated it. And my husband came to me and was like, what is this that you're doing? Because clearly you're marketing my business and it's great, but you're doing something else. And I had to do that soul searching to say to myself, okay, what makes me happy? Identifying your gift. That's another thing that I tell young entrepreneurs. Identify your gift. You may say this is what I like, this is my passion, but do you do it with no problem? See, with me, someone can come to me, they'll tell me something right off the back. I could tell them right off the back in terms of, okay, you're doing this the wrong way. I could tell how you can be seen, how you could be newsworthy. And that just rolls off my tongue. What is it that you can do with your eyes closed to say, and then it just happens? That's another thing. And a mentor can help pull that out of you because sometimes you say to yourself, I like doing this. This makes me happy, but you don't do it just like that. So, getting a mentor and identifying your gifts, doing those soul searching to see exactly what you do at your best of ability, and then implement it. So, those are the two main things that I would start off with.
And those are very great points. And I always say that even your favorite coaches and successful entrepreneurs, that they have mentors. They might not highlight them, but behind the scenes, they have someone telling them, okay, this is what you should probably do next. Because sometimes you, even as we are coaches and consultants, we can see it for other people's business, but sometimes we need somebody outside of
Yeah,
ourselves, no matter how much expertise we have, to say, okay, this is probably a different way that you could approach this. And so everyone needs someone to just steer them in the right path or just validate
just
some of the ideas.
validate it. And it's so important. And I'll be honest with you, a mentor and getting a coach, like invest in a coach. Like I have to give so much credit to my coach, Dr. Avis, because in 20, my business was all face to face. And so when COVID hit, I had to pivot. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I only know how to go to a networking event, and that's how I got clients. Online social media was not my thing. And it took me in 2020 of COVID for me to take that leap to invest in a coach. And I'll be honest with you, that has been the greatest thing that one of the greatest things that I could have done because it took my business to multiple levels, having me get multiple six figures because of my coaching. And and my coach, Dr. Avis, and her team, they literally poured into me that I couldn't pour into myself, but I do it for my clients. I do it for my clients, but I can't do it for myself. And that's what I'm talking about, having a mentor, having a coach, doing that soul searching. Those are things that we need help with because as human beings, we always looking at other people, or we're always downplaying ourselves. We're always second guessing ourselves. And as entrepreneurs, that's like, it seems like it's always like the part of our fabric, and
Mhm,
we gotta change that fabric. We
mhm.
got to keep pushing, pouring into ourselves and getting people to pour into us as well.
Yes, and, when you mentioned about sometimes we don't see it for ourselves, that reminded me of a story. So, a colleague of mine, I recently nominated them to be featured on an article, and they said, "Oh, wow, this made me sound really good." And I was like, "Well," and I helped them write the article, and I was like, "Well, this is you. This is exactly what you said. I just formulated it in a different way." And every time I say, "I see this in you," but they never see it for themselves. So you do need to have that tribe, that mentor, that coach who can see what you can't see and take you to that next level. So I'm glad that we brought this up because it's very important. Even if it's just starting out with a friend, they
Yes,
can sometimes see things that you can't
absolutely.
see as well.
Absolutely. I do it all the time, all the
Yeah.
time.
So I want to give you an opportunity to share again about your business and share what the ideal client needs to come to you for and your information of how they can get in contact with you.
So again, I'm the founder of NetStruck PR. It is a full age PR agency where I provide media relations, networking, community engagement, and really just pulling out the storyline and pulling out what your true messaging is. A lot of clients come to me, and again, I tell clients, if you're not your biggest cheerleader, something is wrong. You're in the wrong business. So you have to be your biggest cheerleader. That helps me to now identify what your uniqueness is. So, the first and foremost thing what I do with clients when they come to me is I tell them, what is your goal? What is it that you're looking to do? Because some people want to be in media for different reasons. They may not want to look for more clients. They may just want the exposure and they just want to be seen as an expert. So you got to think about it. What do you want to be seen as when you start dealing with a publicist? And then the next thing is we're creating your story. Now you may already have your messaging already. But guess what? Your messaging that you have now may not be newsworthy. So we got to craft that. We got to put those in perspectives, and sometimes it is a fight. I'll be honest with you, because some people it's like, listen, I'm married to this, and I'm like, great, you're married to it, nothing's wrong with it, but are you getting a significant other that works with you? And that message is not cutting it. So we got to work on your messaging. And so once we work on the messaging, we then pick out the angles. We then identify, okay, there's different things that's going on throughout the world, regional and local, that we can align you with, that you can now become newsworthy. So we start working on these different angles. Then we identify what media platforms are we going to pitch you to, because we already have the messaging that we created. We already have what you want to be seen as. And now we created these angles. Now we're going for those media platforms that would be ideal for us to send it out. So it's more in terms of when someone comes to me, you have to be an open book. You have to be ready to say, I'm ready to do this. You have to say to yourself, I want to be seen as this, and I don't want to be seen as this anymore. So once we come together and we get that understanding, the flow of the whole campaign works much easier. Much easier. I tell people, a prime example, a surgeon. I will not go to a surgeon and tell the surgeon, well, I just Googled Google, and Google told me that you have to make this incision this way and not the way that you're telling me. And that's an insult. And so I always tell people we all have to stay in our lanes. I'm not a social media expert, so I don't tell people this is X, Y, and Z. I can advise on certain things just based off of what I do, but I got somebody on my team that can do that. So we stay in our lanes, and when you stay in your lane, you bring more progress, you bring better results, and people are much more, everybody is happy. So I tell clients when they're ready for me, when they're ready to work with me, be ready to roll up your sleeves. Be ready to put that think cap on and say to yourself, okay, I need to think outside of the box, because that's how the media works. That's how the community works. Community doesn't want to just see the regular, you put a flyer up there and then that's it. They want to know who you are. They want to know the story. They want to know how you can help them and their community, their network. And that's how we have to change the mentality of entrepreneurs, because again, you go into it because you have this passion, you have this gift, but you also now have to identify, how am I going to identify with my audience? So that's the overall of how I work with clients, how what type of clients comes to me. I really deal with consultants, coaches, authors, anyone that does provides a small that provides a service-based business. And and then and product businesses also. And then we just work out the kinks and just see exactly, okay, what did not work. So if
Mhm.
this did not work, do we need to tweak it, or do we need to just let it go altogether? Because at the end of the day, brand exposure is the most important thing in your business, next to sales. So if
Mhm.
you don't have a brand for people to see, you're not getting the sales. So they go hand in hand.
Exactly. And Sharon is just the expert for you to accomplish that brand exposure. And from what I heard, just walking you step by step to making sure that you reach your bottom line with making sure that you're visible and making sure whether it's lead generation or just that exposure that you're getting to the goals that you have set in place. So I'm excited. I'm like, maybe I need to sign up for some things because just the way you explained everything, it's so clear. And that's what
Thank
every
you.
needs to be. They need to be just as clear as what Sharon shared with us. So thank you for that. And I hope that you will take advantage of what she has to offer. Now, as we come to a close, what final words of advice would you like to give to the audience?
Wow. So final advice that I would say is, in the brand exposure in the PR world, but just as an entrepreneur, period, is that let people know your authenticity. There is nothing worse than an entrepreneur walking into a room or walking to a client, talking to a client, giving them all of these fluffs, things that they can and cannot, that they can't do, and you can't produce. So walk in your existence and provide authenticity to people. If you can't do it, be honest. Say, you know what? That's outside of my reign. You would be surprised the amount of people that come to me and say, Sharon, I need a publicist in entertainment. I am not an entertainment publicist. And I will tell you straight up front, that's a whole different type of PR. And I will not do that just to get the bag.
Mhm.
So I have other publicists that does that I trust, that I would refer them to. And people are like, why are you referring people to that? Is because it's not my lane.
Mhm.
So walk in your authenticity, know your lane, know what you can and cannot do. And what you can do, do it to your best of ability. Let people see that you are the best in that. When I walk into a room, I can walk in and again, and I love telling stories because that's how people relate to it. But I walked into a room, I went to a networking event, and there were like about maybe five or six other publicists there. And someone had asked me one time, it's like, why would you go to some place where there's your competition? And I told them, I said, I don't see them as competition. And the reason why is because nobody can do what I do the same way.
Mhm.
Nobody has the media connections and the contacts that I have for them to reach out to them and talk to them. Everybody is different. So what I look at is, if I work with a publicist, another publicist, they have a whole different outlook and a whole different look that I don't have. So they're just making my client better if we come together and work together. So understand that when you walk into the room, you are unique.
Mhm.
You are the only one, the only footprint that can do what you do and do it well. And you have to wear that on your sleeve, put it on your chest, put it on your forehead. People have to see that. So, there's no way that someone can come and tell you that you are not an expert in something
Mhm.
and you believe it. Because if you've been doing it for years, you've been getting the results, you love what you do, then who is going to tell you that you can't do it? So walk in your existence, be as transparent as possible, know your lane, and understand that others that do the same work that you do does not do it exactly like you. So there are no competitions.
Great words to for us to follow, and I have nothing to add to that because it was just so great. So thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you.
Been an absolute pleasure to just get to know more about you, your story, and your business. And I really thank you for taking the time to be on Lady Mogul Talk.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Thank you so much. This has been another segment of Lady Mogul Talk, and we will see you in the next segment. Bye, everyone.
Bye.